Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to the Accursed. There's nothing more terrifying than someone who claims to be perfectly neutral, perfectly balanced, perfectly in tune with the world, because neutrality allows atrocities as well as it allows blessings. Balance allows for evil as well as good. And the world is a malevolent bitch who will destroy everything living on and within her when we push too hard. The Reeves scare me. This family of sorcerers are halfway between necromancers and druids. They claim to support nature, revere it, follow the cycle of life and death as if it were a grand story with no beginning and no end. They manipulate the living, and equally, they control the dead. They see themselves as more than the average human, and in fact better than their fellow sorcerers. The Reeves are sublime, they are magnificent, and they are powerful. Why? Well, because they can control it all, and you can only dream of doing so. I've met Reeves who consider the world their personal garden, whether they're talking literal plants or the lives of people, businesses, plans, power plants, defense manufacturers. It's all there for weeding, plucking, despoiling, or ruining. If they find an individual who they feel is corrupting their glorious sense of balance, they will eradicate that bastard quicker than a landscape gardener with ragwort. But as with ragwort, they know to keep a distance. It's tempting to just throw yourself in, wrestle through the mud with the elements and your enemies, but far better to use it with corrective poisons and assign the right treatment, spraying the bastard with corrosive slime before moving on. You don't want blisters on your hands after dealing with these things after all. The Reeves are under no illusions regarding their accursed nature. They know they are cursed to sacrifice health and life to maintain their power. Sometimes it's their own, but as you can imagine, far from always. Sometimes it's the health of those whom they care for or even love. They might even sacrifice death if it harms them. What does that mean? Well, let's say a Reeve has spent a good portion of his life tracking down one particular foe. And this one's been hard to corner. A real bastard. Very, very difficult to pin down in one place and finally overcome. Well, now's the time. Now's the time the Reeve has got him. Finally can bring balance to everything that's imbalanced. But the Reeve also knows he can achieve even greater magic if he sacrifices the death of this target and lets him go. You see, a death sacrifice means nothing if you weren't going to kill the person anyway. But if the target is going to cause you more grief through your leaving them alive, mercy, what a balancing maneuver that is. And think of the magic you can obtain. Think of the power at your fingertips at that point. So they sacrifice his death, they gain magic from so doing. Now, the Reeves are a splendid group on a night out, if dances around the fire, drinking the blood of your victims, and celebrating someone's life through their death is your thing. In that case, you will get on very well with these veggie goths. They are incredibly interested in discovering whether the accursed fit into the idea of balance, or if every accursed tips the scales the wrong way. But with that in mind, there's a common school of thoughts among most of the Reeves that's this. If a certain accursed weighs us toward impurity, it so follows that we need to spread the curse to those who are more pure. We need to balance the scales. Now, that means they corrupt the good and decent to outweigh the already bad. I'm sure you can see the rank hypocrisy in that, but it does work. It works for their philosophy. There are other Reeves, of course, who consider all accursed other than them, or even themselves in some cases, utterly throwing the balance out of whack, and so they will go around murdering accursed, and when it comes down to it, when they're the only ones left, they will do what is necessary to restore balance. Now, I doubt they would ever be triumphant, one family of sorcerers among so many others, but it still makes for a dangerous foe when you come across one. The Reeves are one of those families with no fixed origin. I mean, they must have a family head somewhere out there, but their curse, well, it didn't just spring into existence, did it? Though some would say it did. Some would say it came via the form of a flower that grew in an arid desert, or a weed that grew in the middle of an industrial unit, but I've heard the more poetic story as well. That's as simple as this. A child, playing gaily in the garden, consumed poisonous berries from a bush. And as the child lay there choking and dying, their parent ran out, clutched them, the infant, to their body and said, "Please, won't somebody save my baby? Won't somebody do something?" Because the parent didn't know what to do. And if you follow the usual rigmarole of these tales, a greater power intervened and said, "Yes, but the curse is now on you to maintain the balance. You have added a life where one should have been taken away," and etc., and so forth. That's not the story I have been told more than once. Rather, I have heard that something did answer, but it wasn't some greater power, or that the parent, perhaps, sacrificed themselves to save their child's life. Nothing quite so obvious. Rather, that the bush responded. Yes, nature itself answered, telling the parent, "Your child can live for as long as you use my berries to poison other members of your family." And now there is a fun twist. And that kind of story, because there are many stories of that ilk that swim within the Reeve lore, is a popular one. It's a popular one. The idea that whoever the family head of the Reeves is slowly poisoning their own family so that their firstborn, their most beloved child, can continue to live. So what is their origin? Is there one? Who knows? The Reeves are a family with very little interest in beginnings, all told. It's more about the future. They care more about what will come. On the uncertainty, especially, of such blights as world wars and global warming. They care a great deal about these things and how balance requires restoring such things as, well, nature, and removing things like poverty, and eliminating such threats as autocracies in order to combat worldwide atrophy. Does this mean taking out all evildoers and introducing more altruism into the mix? Can you force people to give up their petrol guzzlers without blowing up a few cars to show them as unreliable? Can you make people stop eating meat without introducing a magical infection to the herd? All these questions are the kinds of things that Reeves ruminate on because balance appeals to them. It's a philosophy. It's a simple one. And how far you take it, you can keep it intimate, you can spread it globally, provides one's life with a certain sense of purpose that others might lack. But Carmen Davis, Reeve with an uncanny knack for the morbid, tells me that what we often miss is the imbalance of power. We, the outsiders, think it's all about nature, or life and death. No, says Carmen, as she peels moss off of a skull, it's that power is even more concentrated today than in the hundreds and thousands of years prior. That power needs to be siphoned from the powerful, the mighty, and doled out to the powerless. The powerful need to be shown what powerlessness is. I hear she has some fantastic plans. I just hope that the world survives long enough for us to see them reach fruition.